Hey guys, Nestler Magic here. You know what time it is. Let's jump into it with Blossoming Calm. It's a 1-cost white counter spell that gives you hexproof until your next turn, then you gain 2 life and then rebound, so you get it on your next upkeep too. And then they could respawn on the stack and hit you anyway. But remember, it does say until your next turn. So they won't be able to hit you on their turn if you cast this on your turn with the Planeswalker ability, which is really nice. I think this is good. I think, this is a good, no, I'm not going to let you do this big splashy huge thing or this big glass cannon thing that ends with me getting targeted. No, I'm just going to pay 1 and veto it. People get all pissy, but that's because they want free, easy, brainless wins. Anybody complaining about, what do you mean a counter spell for 1? Oh, boo-hoo, you can't just sit there and get brainless wins. Too bad. Learn how to play the game. Build a better deck. Build a more robust deck with a better win con. Next up, Inevitable Betrayal. Speaking of inevitable, inevitably this is going to get cast for 0 because, or at the very least tutored for 0, but the real big thing is casting it for 0 because there's a ton of cards that do that, but then they put a really low CMC requirement on it, while this has a CMC of 0. Or mana value, or what, who cares? So here's what it does for 0 mana that you don't have to wait for, otherwise it's suspend 3, which is too slow for Modern anyway. Search target opponent's library for a creature card, and then put it directly onto the battlefield under your control, permanently. That player shuffles their library. I mean, you've got to be kidding me. Yeah, it's 3 turns later, that's still devastating. Okay, cool, that's clearly what the card was meant to do, is make you wait, try and just kind of hold on, and then maybe turn the whole game around when this goes off. And then back when Suspend was hot, you could have, I don't know, an artifact or a spell, an effect, a planeswalker, I don't know, whatever it was, it would remove a time counter from 1 or more of your Suspend cards, so you could get them to go off earlier. Well, you go to Commander and you go to Modern, and it's just, oh, well, I'm just going to cast it for free because the CMC is under, 2. You ignore the whole Suspend thing, and then you just do it. So I couldn't tell you what turn this could go off, but let's just say I have an inclination that this won't be very good for Modern. By the way, I hate effects that make you just stop the game and just wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. It's right up there with mill half of your opponent's library. Okay, so I have to count their library, write down a number, then start counting the library a second time and stop halfway through, and then wait for them to shuffle, I think. Yeah, I want to play Magic the Gathering, not play watch you count my cards 1 at a time. This is almost worse than that because they're going to look through every single creature in your deck and say, well, this one's nice, so let me set this one aside. Oh, this one's kind of nice too. Oh, I don't know, maybe this one looks pretty good. Maybe this would work, but how does this work? How does this trigger work? Let me look this up. 10 minutes later, they might have made their decision about what your strongest creature is and finally put something into play. And I could have sworn that Wizards said they were going to cut down on stuff like that, time-wasting stuff at tournaments. I guess they were just kidding, but they've went back on a lot of their, design changes that were going in a very positive direction. So yeah, they really need to all get on the same page. So next up we got Hunting Pack. It's a 7-cost instant. Create a 4/4 green beast creature token and then Storm. So this shouldn't cost 7 if you take away the Storm part, but then if you add the Storm part, then it's broken and overpowered. So there's really no upside to this card. And how the hell are you going to slip in another spell under this? I mean, green isn't known for its card draw and spell spamming and cheap, crappy little spells that do nothing. Like Opt. It's not exactly the Izzet Guild, so what are you possibly going to slip in under this? And you better get 3 beast creature tokens out of this to make it worthwhile for 7. So honestly, this is just a bad card. But then potentially you might get 6 of them, who knows? So it can run away with the game, but it just doesn't strike me as good. So next up we got Soul Talisman. It's Soul Ring, but free. But this, it says you gotta pay 1 mana to suspend it for 3 turns. Well, you don't. That's how Suspend really works in the real world there, Princess. So yeah, it's just Soul Ring in Modern. Fantastic, that's what we needed. Soul Ring, by the way, is banned in Legacy and restricted in Vintage. And I guarantee you, whether it's an artifact deck or not, somebody's going to find a way to cheat this into play. That suspendability is literally never getting used. Next up, I legitimately forgot this existed. It's Prismatic Vista, aka the 11th fetch land that was in MH1, and it was actually also an expedition in Zendikar Rising. So you pay 1 life, sack it, and go get any basic land card. So it's an unlimited fetch land. Can go get anything. So if you're running a 2-color deck, you can now run, realistically, 8 fetch lands instead of 4, so that is very significant. But remember, this is basic land card, not the card by name, because a fetch land can normally go get a shock land or something, like an actual, dual style land. So people never got too excited about an 11th fetch land because it's not a true fetch land, I guess, but depends on your definition, depends on how your deck works. I mean, the land comes in untapped, so bare minimum, even in a mono deck, this is just better than Evolving Wilds and better than Fabled Passage. Yeah, you lose 1 life, but if that's not important to your deck strategy and who you're playing against, then you're fine. So, I mean, yeah, I think it's a good card. Next up, Capra Chrome, and most of these are in foreign language from here on out. Great. So this might translate. The best guess is Capra Chrome, unless Capra means something in Latin and you have to translate that too. Can we just get the cards in English, Wizards? Is that too much to ask? Anyway, it's an artifact creature goat, which, sure, that looks like a goat. I'll take your word for it. It has Flash, Vigilance, and Devour Artifact 1, which they didn't translate, so... I think it's like when it comes into play, you sacrifice another artifact and then like its power or toughness or something. You get like that many counters. It's like CMC or whatever, something like that. Whatever. It's Robo Super Goat and it does something with artifacts and everybody hates artifacts modern, so who cares? Next up, Captain Ripley Vance. 3/2 for 3 whenever you cast your 3rd spell each turn. Oh my gosh, they're really pushing it now. Put a 1/1 counter on Captain Ripley Vance and then it deals damage equal to its power to any target. Ooh. Ooh. Well, you better be able to refill your hand somehow, but other than that, yeah, this could be pretty good. Next up, Rakdos Headliner. God, I hate Rakdos. Why doesn't Azorius just wipe them out? They're awful. Anyway, 3/3 for 2 with haste because Rakdos, and Echo, discard a card. So during the next turn, if you don't do that, then it gets killed. So, yeah. Yeah, I don't like blitzy cards. This is too chimpanzee level of a strategy for me. Next up, Slang Strider. It's a 7-cost 3/3 elemental, affinity for artifacts, which means it costs 1 less to cast for each artifact you control, token or otherwise, land or otherwise. And if you pay 1, sack an artifact. Slang Strider deals 1 damage to any target. Well, it's not a Strider. It has nothing to do with movement, reach, trample, vigilance, nothing. You should have called it Slag Slinger. Like, seriously, they named the card wrong. Anyway, next up we got Radiant Epicure. Trust me, there's a big block of foreign cards coming. I saw that. I have like 12 frickin' translations open right now in different tabs. So this says Converge. Still not very good though. It's a 5-cost single black 5/5. So okay, you could get all 5 colors in there with the generic cost there. But for each color, then each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of colors of mana spent to cast a spell. Yeah, I don't like Converge. Playing 5 colors isn't really a good idea. Next up, Specimen Collector. It's a 5-cost 2/1. Absolute value town there. Vidalcan Wizard. I'm not even going to count the fingers. It's probably wrong. When Specimen Collector enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token and a 0/3 blue crab creature token. When Specimen Collector dies, create a token that's a copy of target token you control. Oh, that could be abused, but you'd have to get it out first and then get it killed and then also have something else in play that's like a clone of something else but is technically a token. That's a bit far-fetched, but you could do something pretty wacky with this. I mean, you know, Desolation Twin even. Next up, Ren's Run Hydra. What, did Ren open a bar or something? Is it a bowling alley? So it's a Hydra, so obviously it's green plus X. It has reach, because of course, and when it enters battlefield, it enters with X/1/1 counters on it, and then reinforce X. So you can pay green plus X, discard this card, and put X/1/1 counters on target creatures. So basically evoke, but it's a little more narrow, and you discard the card instead of exiling it. Kinda neat, though. Next up, we've got Arcbound Javelin. That's how you have to say it. I don't make the rules. So it's a white artifact, 1-drop 0/1. It's also a soldier, which you might be able to get something going there in white with. And if you tap it, remove X/1/1 counters from Arcbound Javelin. It deals X damage to target attacking or blocking creatures. Saw that coming. And Modular 1. This creature enters the battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it. When it dies, you may put a 1/1 counter on target artifact creature. I mean, I don't think picking stuff for 1 is exactly modern grade, but, you know, we're into the uncommons. Some of the stuff is hyper-specific and supposed to be very, like, built up upon with a bunch of boosts and stuff and a bunch of other cards. You know, it's like not a build-around card, but it's something you'd throw in, like, a very, very heavy theme deck. So like some kind of all-in artifact counters thing, this would be wonderful. Otherwise, by itself, this is complete trash. So next up, Yavimaya Elder. It's a 3-cost double devotion human druid 2/1, and when it dies, you may search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal them, and put them into your hand, then shuffle. And if you pay 2, you can sack them and then draw a card. Well, I guess those Yavimaya hipsters are really, really into nature, mana, ley lines, and elder abuse. Was that movie where when you hit like 35, they like kill you or whatever? I literally don't remember the movie, I just remember the reference from Fallout New Vegas. It's Logan's Loophole. How could you just execute somebody with that dope of a hat? Look at that dope ass pimp hat. You don't just walk up to somebody wearing that hat and say, sorry, we gotta kill you now because we need some land. Anyway, this is a really good card. Next up, Foundation Breaker. It's a 4-cost 2/2. And when it enters battlefield, you may destroy target artifact or enchantment. So, you know, naturalize pretty much. And then evoke 2, which makes it literally naturalize. So naturalize with a creature attached. I mean, that is pretty good. I mean, there is now technically no reason to ever run naturalize again. Just run this instead. I mean, hey, all right, sure. Next up, Bloodbraid Marauder. It's a 2-cost 3/1, and it can't block, but then it has Delirium. This spell has Cascade as long as there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard. By the way, if you hit 8, it's technically Dementia, but that only applies at by old LJS, where that was a joke. Well, Cascade is awful. Stop trying to make Cascade a thing, Wizards. Next up, we got Ethersworn Spanx, except they spelled Ether in an unusual manner for them. I don't know what plane this is. Maybe it is Ether with just an E. Whatever. Maybe he's been sniffing Ether. Maybe that's why he climbed up to the ceiling and he's playing a bird. I heard this one time Domri Raid got really whacked out on Ether, climbed up in a tree and played a leprechaun, and people saw a leprechaun in a tree, and they were like, where the gold at? I think that happened in one of the early novels. So this is a 4/4 for 9. I wonder if it has a casting cost reduction. Oh, look, affinity for artifacts. What do you know? Still, I gotta say, that would take a lot of artifacts. So does Flying and Cascade, so, that's great. Next up, Dothi Voidwalker. It's probably not how you say it, but whatever. It's a 3/2 for 2 double black, so that's like huge in certain decks. It's also a rogue, which is nice. And it has Shadow, which means this creature can block or be blocked by only creatures with Shadow. Or as I like to call it, unblockable. So that's annoying. A 3/2 for 2 unblockable. Wonderful. And then if a card would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, instead exile it with a void counter on it. Then if you sack this dude, choose an exiled card an opponent owns with a void counter on it. You may play it this turn without paying its mana cost. Wow, this is all different flavors of broken right here. So turn 1 Thoughtseize, turn 2 bring him out, turn 3 sack him and free cast some horrific 7, 8, 9, 10 cost, you know, super demon Hydra dinosaur, whatever the hell, you know, Eldrazi Titan or something, which if they had that in their hand, they had it coming. But I mean, if it was something reasonable, like a hexproof 6/6 or something, yeah, they lost. They 100% lost. So yeah, I really don't like this card. Like, it's neat, it's interesting, but it goes way too far. I mean, I was gonna say, oh, you have very little power over what goes into their graveyard, except that, you know, you do, because modern. So I don't love that, but I mean, shocker, we've got another broken card that involves free casting. What else is new? In other news, it's Tuesday. Next up, we've got Chitter Spitter. I don't know or care what this is. I want it, and I'm giving it a 10 out of 10 without reading it. But I guess I'll read it just for your sake. So 3-cost green artifact, nice. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may sacrifice a token. If you do, put an acorn counter on Chitter Spitter. Squirrels you control get +1/+1 for each acorn counter on Chitter Spitter. Okay, so I mean, you'd probably be sacking a squirrel to make the rest of yours semi-permanently bigger. I feel like that actually is a little much. I mean, it's kind of borderline overpowered. I mean, you don't see like +5/+5 Lord cards very often, and artifacts aren't, you know, the hardest thing to remove, but it's harder than a creature. I mean, the fact that you can get this cranking on turn 3, man, that is, that's rough. So get this, if you pay 1 green and tap it, create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token. So you're always, as long as you have 1 mana, going to have a spare squirrel. So that's what really puts this over the edge for me. I was on the border till I read that last part. Now, for those reasons, I'm out. I'm going to offer you $250,000 for a 15% stake in this card not being a thing. Take it or leave it. Shark Tank, bitches. Next up, oh, here we go with the translation ones. We got Laboratorio da Rebentaciao. I don't know what half that crap is. Did they just look at Spanish and say, no, it needs to be harder for no reason? Let's mix in a little French and then put squiggles on things and fish hooks on the bottom of seas. Anyway, Riptide Laboratory, it's a land, you can tap it for colorless, great, and then if you pay 2, 1 blue, yay, tap it, return target wizard you control to its owner's hand, so just a wizard saver that doesn't help you get out wizards, whatever. Oh, let me just use my expert Portuguese skills to translate that flavor text for you. With a something fisherman inadvertently something over Dominaria. You're welcome. Next up, we've got Chrome Courier. It's a 1/1 for 3, so, you know, honk honk, the train's pulling into Value Town. And it's flying, so, I mean, there's just even more added value. They need to pump the brakes on this one here. But when it enters the battlefield, reveal the top 2 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the other into your graveyard. If you put an artifact card in your hand this way, you gain 3 life. Still not worth it. Next up, Sithis. Some French thing that means hand to the harvest. Wait. I am going to try, and I'm going to do it for Quebec, because they're awful. I assume about half the vowels and consonants are just there for decoration, so it's probably Sithis, Maine, I don't know, de récolte? Hell, I don't think that last word's even plural. So it's a 1/2 for 2 legendary enchantment creature nymph, and whenever you cast an enchantment spell, gain 1 life and draw a card. Oh! If I were to put that in my Constellation deck from, like, I don't know, 6 to 9 months ago in Standard, it would be the number 1 Tier 1 deck in Standard. This is absolutely absurdly powerful. This is front card commander level crazy shit right here. That's like every time you blink, draw a card and gain life. Like, and then you get the life gain trigger. I mean, this is just absolutely absurd. Wow, that's powerful. Okay, next up, Foyer, probably, Le Lu. Whatever, your language is too confusing. So, search the premises. So it's a 4-cost enchantment. Whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, investigate. Still not even good enough for my Don't Attack Me deck in Commander. For 4, that's just not good enough. Next up, Depot. Why are there 2 opposite-facing accent marks? Or no, that's like a hat. The O's wearing a little hat. You know what? Screw you. It's Depot. D'Energie, which is obviously of energy, aka Energy Depot. So it's an artifact land because obviously we didn't have enough of those yet. We need more of those in the game. So you think this generates energy, right? I don't see a lightning bolt symbol in there, do you? So Energy Depot enters battlefield tapped. You can tap it for colorless and add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Use this mana only to cast artifacts or activate abilities of artifacts, which usually don't require color except in this set. And then modular 1. What is that, like ETB? You can put a counter on it or another artifact or something? I don't know. Whatever. We didn't need artifact lands. Moving on, we got Point Barbelay, which is apparently Barbed Point. It's a 2-cost white artifact equipment. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter creature token with flying and attach this to it. That's just weird. Equipped creature has +1/+0 and equip 2, so not very good unless you really wanted a Thopter. Or Artifact Affinity, because you get a 2-for-1 special. Next up, Thought Monitor. Well, Twitch could use a couple of these. Everybody, like, go get this card and mail it to Twitch. They got way too many thoughts on their website, and they need to monitor them. So this 7-cost 2/2 monstrosity has affinity for artifacts, flying, and when Thought Monitor enters battlefield, draw 2 cards. Not worth it. The timing is just too rough and it's too weak. Next up, Tide Shaper. It's a 1-cost 1/1 Merfolk Wizard. Oh, those are fun. Kicker 1. When it enters battlefield, if it was kicked, return target land becomes an island for as long as Tide Shaper remains on the battlefield for all of your stupid island walk merfolk. Then Tide Shaper gets +1/+1 as long as an opponent controls an island. Wow, it gets all the way up to 2/2, you guys. It's pretty good. Better pay that kicker cost, but still not very good. Next up, Raving Visionary. It's a 2-cost 1/1 Merfolk Wizard. This set just needed Merfolk so much. You pay 1 blue, tap it, draw a card, then discard a card. Fun. And then Delirium. Pay 3 and tap it. What does that have to do with Delirium? I guess so that you can only activate this if it has Delirium? Weird. Activate only if there are 4 or more. Yeah, so in other words, like Delirium is the condition, and then it's an activated ability on top of that. I've never seen that written like that. That is really strange. So it doesn't have that ability unless you have Delirium. Okay. Well, recurring card draw for 3 ain't that bad, actually. Next up, Acolyte del Arcus. That's, of course, Arcus Acolyte. It's a 2-cost 2/2 human cleric, reach lifelink. Damn. Outlast. I don't know what that does, and it's in a different language. It's written too small to translate, so, awesome. And then each other creature you control without a 1/1 counter on it has Outlast. But the Outlast costs 1 hybrid green-white. Okay. I could look it up, but honestly, who cares? Next up, Skyblade's Boon. It's a 2-cost aura, enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has flying. And if you pay 3, return Skyblade's Boon to its owner's hand. Activate only if Skyblade's Boon is on the battlefield or in your graveyard. Well, that's interesting. I mean, you'd have to really want this back, but if you've got like a good lifelinker that you need to be flying or something, hey, let's do it. You could just keep getting the creature killed like on purpose, and then just, look, Constellation, enchantment ETB, enchantment ETB, enchantment ETB. It'd be expensive though. Next up, Chainer Nightmare Adept. It's a, reprint obviously, because we've all heard of this card probably. And 4-cost 3/2 legendary creature, human minion. And if you discard a card, you may cast a creature spell from your graveyard this turn. Activate this only once each turn. And then whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, if you didn't cast it from your hand, it gains haste until your next turn. So just ditch something you want to have haste, and then just cast it from your graveyard. There you go. And it just gains haste. It's a weird roundabout way to do it, but there it is. So there were actually a lot of cards that came out later today, so I'm going to split them into a different video, because it's probably about 15-20 minutes worth of other spoilers. So watch for that. We still got a couple mythics coming, by the way, and I'll see you guys next time.